Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, a platform to amplify Latina voices, to validate their story, and engage the comunidad worldwide. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, and also creator of this content. If you would like to chat about what you've heard here today, then reach out to me through our website at thelinks.com. That's LNXX, or through our Instagram profile at Lifelinks. I'd love to listen and engage in whatever you have to say. Hola, chicas. Welcome to this 64th episode of the Lifelinks podcast, where we share the full picture of a first-gen vida, validating each other's journey and lifting one another towards joy and success. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, here on this rainy Wednesday, November 2nd, All Souls Day, embracing all the memories of all our loved ones who have passed away, and expressing gratitude to our ancestors for the wealth of strength, happiness, and knowledge that resonates with us still, and the rain of tears from the heavens right now. This episode is much like today, in wrapping up some thoughts of our last two episodes. Last week, episode 63, was describing our loved ones for who they truly were here on Earth, and how on any given day they present themselves to us, even when we are traveling. Like the ladies from Two Peacocks Travel encourage us to do in episode 62. When you were listening to last week's episode, you heard me speak of my love for the power of numbers. Besides being a digit head, the structural engineer, the love of all things math, I love the power of numbers as an indicator, a signal to act on what your soul is saying. It's like that green light, that checkered flag. It's the go, go, go. It follows that gut feeling. Some say intuition. That voice that is telling you what to do. It becomes that flashing light. And ultimately that blaring alarm. So last week's episode fell on my birthday, 10/26. And it was the 63rd episode. And that sent me a signal to wrap up these challenging, ridiculous, life-changing 50s and get ready to take on my next decade in full force and fearless love of life. But I also spoke of my favorite sequence of numbers, 1111, and how in 2014, they were the signal for me to check on my mother, just 30 minutes after tucking her in for the night, only to find that she had slipped away to her heavens in that time. So this week has become a deep one of celebration and remembrance, starting with my birthday, followed by the memory of my sweet, brilliant mamacita on October 29th, and my gregarious father who passed away 3 years ago today on All Souls Day. I actually call it Joe Souls Day now, giving that big squeeze that finalizes the end of a hug. Now, all this occurred while I was swept away by my husband for a much-needed escape from our harsh reality that has just been shredding on us for a solid couple of years now. If you follow the social media at Lifelinks, either Instagram or Facebook, you saw the amazing paradise that we traveled to in the Hawaiian Islands. We went to the island of Molokai. It was one of the most ethereal, non-touristy places I have been blessed to experience, which is exactly what I needed for this past week. I wanted to be where people were kind and living a simple life, where the earth looked the same as when it was created, and where my data service couldn't find me, and food could be plucked from neighboring fruit stands by dropping money into a little box at the side of the road. Molokai did not disappoint, and in reality, it shocked me to realize that genuine, non-contrived paradise can still be found today. Check out the reel on my personal Instagram, Consuelo ends in O, to see the sunrise reel that literally happened every morning when we were there. And the sentiment on that reel reminding us just to stop, to sit in silence and have gratitude. And that each of you, no matter where you are in the world, are really precious and needed here for the universe to work. Now, before you go rushing off to book your travels there, I have one specific part of this journey that you need to know about. You see, the only way to get to Molokai is from one of the other Hawaiian islands. Okay, no big deal, you say. Okay, but wait for it. The flight to Molokai is on a single propeller plane that seats 9, including the 2 pilots. Still on board? Okay, let me give you some more deets on this. When you check in for the flight, the staff asks for your weight. Now, this is no time to fudge about that reality, amigas. Nothing is said or done in the moment about it. There's no comment, there's no expression. But when they call you over to board the plane, they call passengers out in twos to line up. It's kind of like the Noah's Ark to Molokai. And yes, there is someone who will be solo as the number 7. And as they call out your name, they emphatically tell you, do not get out of order. You are to sit on the plane exactly as we call you. So there's row 1, row 2, and by row, I mean there are 2 seats. There's no self-choosing of seats. No matter how much you want to pay extra, you will sit where they tell you, or the plane will not make the flight successfully. Physics will take over and bad things could happen. This was the purest sense of social justice for me, and definitely set the tone for my week. No matter how special someone thinks they are, or how much money they have, it didn't matter. On that flight, we were all equal, and in the hands of the experts, who were not protected by overcompensation of a bulked-up plane. It was pure knowledge and experience, leading the team effort to support each other towards success. Again, you can see this all on our Instagram stories today. Now, if this has got you still on board, then go make your travel plans, because Molokai will heal whatever is still aching in you. Which brings us around to what Anna and Sandy, founders of Two Peacocks Travel, taught us in episode 62. They wisely told us that we are all travelers on a journey, and on any given day to immerse ourselves in what's happening around us. We should avoid being tourists in our own lives, going to places and checking things off a list. That isn't living. That is completing tasks. So going to Molokai for me was definitely intentional for traveling on my journey, in search of solace to reflect on my parents during this week. I wanted a place free of distractions and noise, where gratitude had space to flow and I could revel in feeling my parents' presence. I have always felt that the veil is very thin between here and the there. And in the quietest moments, we can feel the presence of others guiding us, affirming our journey, and reminding us that we are not alone. We are all on a journey. Even when we pass, our journey continues. You've heard me say often that my mother, also Consuelo, appeared as a hummingbird soon after she died. She would appear every morning in the same tree and then fly close to me when I went outside to have my cafecito. One day, she even flew in my house and let me hold her in my hand. You can see the pictures of that in the article on our website at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. I looked like a wreck because it was morning and I was totally sobbing during this experience. It was so unbelievable. So disregard that. There are no filters on those pictures. And when my dad, Joe, passed away, then there were 2 hummingbirds every morning to this day. He would soar straight up in the sky, so high I could barely see him, and then begin these zoomy circles where he would just spin down to the ground and up and down, while the other hummingbird just sat and watched. They would appear in the same tree every morning and then come close together to me when I came outside. Now, I didn't expect them to be there. I didn't say, oh, okay, it's morning and I'm going to go check that they're there and check, check, check. No, I wasn't checking it off my list of expectations. But nevertheless, they would always be there, easing me into my morning with gratitude. My mother, as the little hummingbird, followed me everywhere in my travels, from Dubai to Positano to Cuba, always appearing where I was. Always meeting me in the morning while I had my cafecito outside. So I have to say I was hugely disappointed when after a couple of days in Molokai, there was no hummingbird. Especially during the week of Remembrance and Dia de los Muertos. If anything was going to be a coincidence, it would be a hummingbird in paradise with all the lush, sweet flowers for it to frolic in. But then one morning, while watching the sunrise as I sat on the balcony with my cafecito, who should appear? A small brown dove on the handrail right by me. She came down and hopped around my chair, and I laughed out loud because I knew it was her. It was October 29th, the day of her passing, and there was this dove that appeared for the very first time. I didn't feed it, not wanting to be a tourist, but rather a traveler, experiencing what was happening in the moment. The dove came every morning, hopping around and sitting in the new warmth of a sunlit balcony. She came every morning until the last one. On that one, we had time to watch the sunrise, sip our café, and casually eat breakfast while lamenting how we really wanted to stay longer. And that angst was just heightened by the absence of my dove. Then suddenly, in the silence of pure solace, she appeared. But not alone. With another dove, larger and more cautious. It was my father, On the morning of November 1st, just like in 2019, when he came calling in the morning to ask when I was coming over. In both those mornings, he came to chat. And in 2019, he ended the call with, "I just wanted to hear your voice." And just like in 2019, that would be the last day I saw my father, and the last day this year that I saw the dove. On that November 2nd morning, on my way out the door to pick up caring for my dad, I received a phone call. "I'm so sorry to tell you, Consuelo." Nothing good ever follows those haunting words of introduction. And just like the dove, today marks the painful day of his absence. It's perfect that it's raining while the sun is shining. It's exactly what I feel like. Tearful that we aren't together to laugh and make witty comments about what's going on in the world. Yet joyful that we created a lifetime of memories to soften that pain. The two doves, my mother and my father, always together for over 60 years. And together again, as hummingbirds, as doves, as my companions and protectors, just like when we were all together here. Happy week of Remembrance, joyful culmination of celebrating Dia de los Muertos, peaceful All Souls Day, for all our ancestors and our loved ones who have passed away. May we always take the time to speak their names, to share their life stories, and express what they mean to us, all the while learning of the stories of others. Join us next week when we have a special guest, Linda Gonzalez, share her compassionate journey through amazing experience that most of us will never go through. Linda is a bilingual small business strategist, coach, and author of 2 books, Breaking Through Your Own Glass Ceiling, based on 20 years of coaching practice with a focus on BIPOC, women, and under-resourced resilient communities, and The Cost of Our Lives, which explores familia, betrayal, and redemption. Oh my Lord, you will love this episode. Linda is the unexpected that you don't see coming. My jaw just kept dropping in listening to her stories. She's strong, intentional, and so focused on advocating for social justice for others. You definitely want her on your side. Remember to take the time to share this podcast with your friends and family. Please encourage them to subscribe to the podcast by tapping follow or add, or on Apple, it's a little plus sign, on any of your favorite streaming podcast platforms so you don't miss an episode. They can also listen to episodes on our website at thelinks.com. That's LNXX for Los Mujeres. Get some peeks of what's coming up in our episodes on our social media at Lifelinks. And if you would like to be a guest on this podcast, then reach out to me via the email tab on the Lifelinks Instagram. I would love to engage in these stories. They just fill my soul and I want to get them out to the world. The more we tell our stories, the greater our narrative becomes and the louder our voices. From the stories of your ancestors to your own and those of future generations, we want to listen and learn of your journey. Step into your truth, ladies. Ciao. Really appreciate the time you take to rate and review the podcast. Get the backstory and what you've heard here today and reach out to us at thelinks.com. That's LNXX, because it's about time, it's about us. Stay in the groove on our social media at Lifelinks and get ready to make your move, ladies. Viva!